Alright, so welcome to Man Cave Classroom. I'm John Heath along with my buddy Kevin Coben, who's been hiding this t-shirt all morning. Just takes off the sweatshirt, and now he's got his Theodore Roosevelt shirt on. And now he's going to tell me that he did not plan his wardrobe out before he came here to start filming it all.
Oh no, I did. No, this time I did. The other time I did.
All right.
The other time it was just, hey, I'm just gonna this was, but I'm like, I need to wear something history based, and I'm like, it was either this or my We the People.
Okay.
But that was
He didn't tell me what color, so the matching thing, that's just totally by accident.
I wear it better anyway.
All right, so here's the cool thing. We talked about cowboys and cowhands previously. Now we're going to be talking about how this cattle kingdom and the idea of the cowboy kind of comes to an end.
Yeah, it was like really boom. It was like, I want to be a cowboy, and then it was like, nope.
But previously we talked about how did cowboys get the cattle to the towns, okay? We already talked about that, and we mentioned, gotta click on.
Having some technical difficulties.
Gotta click on.
There we go.
But we mentioned how they got the cattle from one point to the other. We mentioned the dangers of the job of wearing the bandana to kind of cover up. Mentioned the gear that they kind of used. Everybody had a gun and whatnot. Who they learned it from. But when we talk now about the towns, what do these towns look like? And another thing to probably put to get you to wrap your head around is that look at your local town. Look at how communities develop and look at the certain businesses that are around there. So he's from Northport, I'm from Mattatuck, and we're very, very close to water. And if you go to towns that, especially on Long Island, that have a port name in it, guess what? Boats go in there. So what kind of businesses do you think, if you look there, you have, a town that's right near the water where there's going to be some people where their livelihood is going to depend on, people who go on the water.
Marinas.
Yeah.
Clammers, lobstermen.
Bait and tackle shops. Yeah, absolutely.
It's everywhere.
Right. I'm going to sell bait right by the water. I'm not going to sell it in the middle of nowhere in the desert because I'm not going to be able to sell worms or whatever else.
Like a ketchup popsicle to an Eskimo.
Right,
exactly.
Day. So, you got to think smart about your businesses as well. So we'll put this out.
Yeah, so like the thing about cow towns is like we've already previously talked about boom towns.
Right, yeah.
Cow towns were very, very similar to boom towns in the way they looked.
Yes, I think so too.
But the major difference being cow towns never faded away into a ghost town.
Right.
They stayed forever. So these guys, 8-10 weeks on the trail.
Yeah.
Working hard. You're disgusting.
12
you're
hours,
dirty.
16-hour days.
You're tired.
Yep.
You're hairy.
Right.
All of these. You've been sleeping on the ground with like a rock pillow.
You've been eating dried food, beans.
So it's like, what do you want?
Oh gosh, I want a steak.
Mm-hmm.
I want a bed.
Mm-hmm.
I want a shower.
Mm-hmm.
I want a alcoholic beverage because that's what these guys are
Yeah.
so you're gonna have. So think about that. Think about what somebody is going to want in this situation, and there's your businesses: hotels, saloons, taverns.
There were literally, in some of these cow towns, there were literally bathtubs in the street.
Oh, jeez.
Bathtubs in the street where they would bring in like boiling water, pour it in to warm it up.
Yeah.
You'd pay the guy $5 or whatever it was. There was like a curtain around you. You jump in the bath. They dump out the bathtub, bring in fresh water for the next guy. Barbers for shaves and haircuts. One of my favorite are the dance halls. My students was like, why dance halls? It's like, you're a cowboy. Who else is going to be at the dance hall there for you? Beautiful women.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because if we're cowboys that have been out there on weeks on end,
Mm-hmm.
all right, we're around a bunch of dudes.
Yeah.
Okay. There are no pretty women out there, so this is where they're going to go to see and meet pretty ladies. And the thing is that when you're looking at some of these areas too, now a cowboy is going to get paid at the end of this journey. So now he's got all his money.
Mm-hmm.
How can you double your money? I know you're saying investing, have your money work for you. Wrong.
No. Gambling. So then it's like, all right, well, now I've got a good hand of cards in my hand.
Right.
I'm gambling with Mr. Heeg. How can I ensure that this hand is now a winning hand? I'm going to cheat on this one.
Absolutely.
Problem with cheating is he's got a gun.
Right.
Yeah, so do I. I mean, this is like that wild, wild west.
Yes.
Like that story of like Tombstone
Yes.
or where it's real.
Yeah.
Like these like lawless towns where cowboys were shooting and killing each other was a real life happening.
If I was in this time period, I think I would have been dead by 35. Who knows what would have happened?
I was too smart for that.
Yeah, I was smart, but you know, I don't know. I don't think I would have been. It would have been cool to see how that worked out. I mean, because these towns, it's like you look at these pictures. You know, I always love the structures and how the communities. I'm always interested in how communities are built or what they center around, whether it be like a tourism industry or a port industry, or if you're even looking here, you know, towns to walk around and like look at these structures. Of course, you know, there's certain things that grab your eyes in certain photographs, but you know how busy this is, and of course, as the school year moves around, you'll see similar pictures where it's very, very populated and congested, but these buildings are going to get higher when we get to the cities, which is really cool. But here we go, there they are. You know, in there having their alcoholic beverage.
Their whiskey, their beer, whatever it was.
Yep. Look at him. What do you want? Right? I love it. You know, of course, the pretty women were probably off to the sides, gambling taking place, you know, wherever. Really, really thing. Now, the thing is that now you have cowhands that are there inhabiting this town. They just got paid. They're gonna go to a hotel, have themselves a steak, meet a pretty girl, you know, finally get a shower or a bath for that point. Shave. Now you're getting them to these cow towns because you're getting the cattle onto the trains. You're not going to move cattle from Texas to New York. I'd love to see that done.
Most of them went to Chicago.
Chicago, I'm sorry.
Most of them going to Chicago.
Center of the country at the time.
Because not only that, Chicago has the
train hub,
was the biggest train hub. And that's where the slaughterhouses were.
That's true.
And what's the name of the Chicago's basketball team?
Bulls.
Chicago Bulls. You know, because of these Texas Longhorns that were brought there.
I never knew of the Chicago Bulls until today.
Yep.
Look at that. But again, some great pictures here of the cattle that are being moved in. You know, again. Now, when we talk about all of this ending, you know, the whole idea of, you know, the living on the range and the cowboy or that profession ending, you know, there was the invention that brought it down.
Enduring issues. Innovation.
Yes.
People are always looking for things to make their lives better. You know, and it sounds great. Like, I'm a cowboy. Like, I'm going to walk 4,000 cattle from Texas to Kansas. You know, my life is great. Well, whose life wasn't great during that?
Farmers.
The farmers who lived between point A and point B.
You're providing them food along the way, pretty much.
It's
when
like,
you look
dude,
at the crops
your
and the grass.
your cattle are trampling my rutabaga.
Right.
Your cows are eating my succotash. I'm just thinking of like vegetables that have really fun, cool names.
I was just about to say, I don't know what you just said there, so I'm going to have to take that as disrespect. You know, so anyway.
So I'm a farmer, and it's like, dude, get your cows off my property. And there were conflicts all the time between ranchers and farmers.
Absolutely.
And let's understand the difference. Ranchers raised cattle and livestock. Farmers grew crops. Guess what livestock eat? Plants. So there's this huge conflict between them. So the easiest solution was build a fence. The problem with building a fence, it was very expensive.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, now I got to cut down how many trees to dig post holes, to then put up all, like, if you think of like your typical stockade fence in a backyard, all those little pieces of slats.
If I'm going to go and do that, I call two buddies and then I bribe them with lunch.
Yes.
And it's half a day.
Yes.
And we're talking about, I don't know, less than half a football field.
So I need to think of something that will be easy to make, cheap to produce.
This guy was brilliant.
And efficient in getting the job done.
Brilliant, this guy.
What was the guy's name?
Glydian.
Glydian, yeah. Farmer who's like, I'm going to take
I love this.
a coffee grinder, right?
Yes, it was a coffee grinder.
He took a coffee grinder.
And he twisted the wires.
And he took 2 pieces of wire, and he put these little barbs and twisted the wire. And all of a sudden, what do we have? We got barbed wire.
Yeah.
So now all I need is a post hole here, then maybe 20 yards of nothing, and then another post hole. And I can just run this wire. And the great thing about barbed wire, you know, the cows walk into it, it hurts them. Yeah. They're, I don't like that.
I always get students going, well, you know, you have this steer that's a couple of 100 pounds. Couldn't they just trample over it? Yes, and I'm sure if we talk to somebody who works on ranches, would be able to explain to us that just putting this up, setting up this barrier was enough to keep them corralled in there. I'm sure there's an explanation for it, because if this didn't work, I'd have to believe that, because if this didn't work, then they'd move on to something else. But
it worked.
But it worked.
Because
it's
barbed
setting
wire,
boundaries. Yeah.
Barbed wire is very, very efficient at keeping people in or keeping people out of certain places. And if you even think about buildings that you would see barbed wire today that is designed to either keep people in or keep people out, military forts are surrounded in barbed wire.
Yep.
Prisons are surrounded in barbed wire.
It's effective.
Yeah, it does its job. In my town, in Northport, we've got the smokestacks, the power plant.
Yeah.
And there's the fence, and then there's 4 feet of barbed wire, because they don't want people getting onto their property, because if it's a power plant, if people wanted to do some damage.
And then making this, just describing all the labor that goes involved to putting up a fence. And it's other words that you're going to hear. This was faster. This was easier.
It was
and
cheaper
and efficient.
I remember reading something. They said he sold enough barbed wire
To go around the world like 25 times.
in
Something
5
to
years
that
to
effect.
go around the earth, like 5 or 15, I forget, whatever the number was.
So here's just an advertisement, as we're just spending a lot of time talking about it. So farmers, take notice that there's your audience right there. This is the greatest invention of the age, and this helps to kind of close off, that open range, which is really cool. So you're bringing up barbed wire, though, before I forget. When we're looking at how that evolves, this is your Constantine wire.
Yeah.
That you mentioned on
Prisons
as well. This thing will stop a vehicle. I've seen it because they actually use these overseas in vehicle checkpoints, and this thing is very, very sharp, very, very brutal. But you have an idea of how that kind of evolves. But back to just a regular barbed wire. Another good advertisement here for this. I love this.
So again,
I love the color. Love the color.
With like enduring, big phrase for Soul State teachers, enduring issues.
Enduring. Yep.
A farmer with an idea basically ended an entire way of life.
Necessity is the mother of invention. Yeah, exactly.
He needed to keep cows off of his crops, so he thought about it, creates barbed wire, and it shut off the cattle kingdom. That Chisholm Trail was gone.
Right.
The cowboy way of life was gone, because now, and then it was a couple other things, because eventually they build rail lines down into Texas, so you don't need to drive them all the way to Kansas.
It's definitely changing the way people do things.
So yeah, and it was like the cowboy way of life gone forever, and like adaptation always comes to mind. People have to adapt to the times.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately for the cowboys, they really didn't.
Right.
There was a few open ranges left up in Montana and Wyoming. Have you seen the show Yellowstone, Kevin Costner?
No, I need to get Hulu. We keep talking about this. I need to make this work. Yeah, I know. I need to make this work.
Jim Sweeney. Jim, if you're out there. he told me about it. It is awesome.
Okay, there you go. You mean crediting your source, something else historians do. But again, here we have the cattle that are in.
And as you can say that, another reason why cowboys weren't needed. They don't. Ranchers even in Texas now put up barbed wire to keep their cattle in one place. They didn't need the cowboys to go out in the open range, rope them and herd them back.
So here you have the changes that are taking place within this career. And just like with any job or any profession, there's a lot of changes that take place within it. Everybody knows Netflix. Once upon a time, there was a video store. And if you don't stay up to date with the current trends, that kind of changes as well.
Talk back to our previous lesson about Sears.
Yeah, exactly.
Sears starts with their mail order catalog, and then eventually says, "Hey, we're going to build brick and mortar, an actual building to sell our supplies in."
Do they even have catalogs anymore?
Sears not.
No.
And they don't have Sears anymore.
Right, that's right. I'm sorry.
Because Amazon, boom,
Yeah,
bankruptcy.
Exactly. Okay, so wow. It shows you how much I shop at Sears. So again, we see more of the barbed wire here. The other thing, when we're looking at this cow, the healthy cattle, the steer that we showed you at the beginning. This one, we're seeing some ribs here, and we're seeing a little bit of malnourishment taking place, and it looks like a very, very sick cow or steer. And this is not good.
I can't watch this.
You can't watch the cattle, the sick cows. And this was due to a lot of it from harsh winters as well.
Overgrazing of the land.
Overgrazing
Wasn't
of the
enough
land.
food for the cattle.
Yeah, absolutely. Apparently, because students bring this up as well. Well, if it gets really cold or it snows out there, because it did, don't they have like this thick skin or the fur on them? Shouldn't I keep them warm? Yes and no, because they actually grow in, and I found this out by accident. They actually grow in like different coats. There's like a winter coat that they grow in, and if they don't grow in that winter coat, and I'm imagining, you can look this up on your own, that your winter coat is much thicker, something that the animal has adapted to over time when it comes to the climate. If you don't have your winter coat grown in as a steer and you're exposed to extreme cold, they'll actually freeze to death.
And as sad as this looks, because it is sad,
Yeah.
like if this is the rancher, he's like $1,000, $1,000.
As long as it's a fresh death.
No, I'm just saying, the money that he's not making.
Yeah, exactly.
Like this is what he's looking at is money lost.
Yes.
As sad as that is to us, look at a dead cow. It's like,
I mean, this guy's not naming them.
No.
He's not going, okay, that's Kitten, that's Ziggy, that's Marley or whatever. This is money to him.
I would have gone like Clarabelle.
Clarabelle?
Well, yeah, Goofy's wife.
Okay.
His wife is Clarabelle the cow, which is why Goofy is a cow. Everyone thinks Goofy's a dog. I don't believe that. If you see Stand By Me, Goofy's a cow. I love how we keep bringing like movie references to these kids.
Stand By Me mentioned twice in the last two flicks. Just saying here.
What else?
The railroads with when
You're right.
Right.
Great 80s flick. Boys and girls, if you haven't seen Stand By Me, see it.
So the end of the cattle kingdom, as certain things we mentioned, farmers began putting barbed wire up, to keep the kind of cattle out. Large grants of land, were given to railroad companies, helped to kind of close that open range. So there's something that the ranchers did as well. After time, no grass to feed on because these longhorns had been feeding on them for a while. These cold winters and diseases such as Texas fever winds up killing these herds, and this is why it's going to come to an end. Anything else we need on this one? We even mentioned Constantine wire. We did.
Just remember, the boy wasn't sleeping. The boy wasn't unconscious.
He was
dead. The boy was dead. Stand By Me.
Hollywood's going to start giving us movies. We're plugging their movies. I'm telling you right now. Take care.